I'll see you guys in the dark.
I've had to endure several forms of privacy trespasses, a little last year, and this year specifically, since I started ranting about politics and ethnic violence, among other privacy issues like hacking, physical stalking BS, other evil crap. Were repeated anonymous calls. I reprimanded these 2 or 3 times while I ignored the calls other times. Blocking was ineffective, as they would call with a different number each time. There were 2 distinct voices I remember from the calls. One was a very deep, creepy voice. The other, not so much, but both shared an accent. How, or if these calls or other forms of privacy invasion were interrelated, I'm not exactly sure. So forward to today. I stood by the ATM for a second time out of 3, taking a few out to buy groceries, and this dude walked right past me, asking if his card could work in this machine. I turned around to see what he was talking about, and he showed me a lottery card, the bingo scratch type or lottery cards. And he asked if that would work in the machine with a serious but slightly nervous tone. I wasn't sure whether I should take it lightly, whether or not a foolish joke or a random hit-on. I just found it silly, so I just scolded him and walked away, telling him to give it a try. He walked behind me saying something and repeating it, but I scolded him, studying his features and the way he dressed as well as I could, and that's when his voice triggered a memory, one of the deep, creepy voices from the calls. As I left behind him, scolding him and ignoring him while also studying his demeanor and look, he must have gotten offended because he muttered an insult under his breath before he took a turn. The voice sounded exactly like that of the callers along with the accent, and the guy generally gave me goosebumps for whatever reason, as the caller likewise did. I never looked at anyone the way I did him. This will do for now. Thankfully, I haven't received those calls in a few months, while other types of privacy invasions and schemes have taken place with every critical political rant that I made. Whether or not connected, I'm not sure, but yeah, creepy dude, please let's not meet again. And I seriously hope that those phone calls will stop permanently. A few years ago, I had to travel to another town alone. When I arrived, I checked myself into a hotel and went on with my business. Later in the evening, I was free. Being in a place I visit for the very first time, I decided to look around, maybe shop a little bit. Staying in a hotel room seemed so boring. I went to a mall, and since I had nothing better to do, I decided to see a movie at the cinema there. I checked what movies they showed at the time, and chose one which starts in about half an hour. After I bought my ticket, I had to kill the time, so I took an ice cream and sat at a table in a common place. At one of the other tables was sitting a guy. I didn't pay attention to him and went on eating my ice cream. Suddenly, this guy starts talking to me. It was something about my beautiful eyes. I thanked him and continued to mind my own business. He offered for me to join him at his table, but I politely refused. I thought the conversation was over, but it seems like he was nowhere near such thought. He continued talking to me like we were old friends. I tried to ignore him first, but I felt that it was not right, and I should be more polite. Big mistake. He started asking me all kinds of questions, and I was dumb enough to answer him. I told him I was not from here. He said that he was also visiting this town, which now, when I think about it, sounds like a lie to me. He said he saw me looking at the movie posters and asked me what movie I was going to watch. Of course, silly me, I told him. I didn't really think it would do any harm. Soon enough, his questions started to bother me more and more. I finished my ice cream as fast as I could and made some excuse and left. There was still a lot of time until the movie starts, so I decided to linger in the shops, hoping that the guy will finish his meal and leave before I get back. When I returned, there was no trace of him. Relieved, I went in front of the cinema, waiting the last couple of minutes before they opened the entrance. Just when they opened and people started getting in, guess who came out of nowhere? This guy. He immediately attached himself to me and started talking casually about the movie we were about to watch. I was already extremely uncomfortable, but I cannot forbid someone to watch a movie. Technically, he didn't do anything wrong, even if he clearly bought the ticket just because I told him I'm going to watch it. We entered. He follows me, and I start looking for my seat, eager to get rid of him. Then he said something which made me shiver. He casually pointed towards a row and said, "There's our seats." My seat number was exactly where he was showing me. I never mentioned it to him at all. He not only bought the ticket for the same movie, but he also asked which one was my seat and took the adjacent seat. I have no idea why the cashier would give that kind of information. Maybe he lied to her, saying that that's my friend, or even my boyfriend. I froze at the beginning of the row and calmly said, "Go right on ahead." He continued towards the seats, but I didn't follow him. I sat there, at the very last seat of the row, close to the exit. There were not many people in the cinema, so there was a small chance that I took someone else's place. Luckily, he didn't move. Maybe he finally realized that it was not going to happen. At the end of the movie, I bolted out, scared that he might follow me. I haven't seen him since that very day. So, creeper at the cinema, let's not meet again. When I was around 8 years old, we moved into a new house. It wasn't old, but it wasn't a fairly new built house either, maybe built around the 60s. Everyone got their own room, and this was the first time I was on my own. I thought I was a big shot. A little background on myself. I'd like to call myself somewhat of a sensitive. Ever since I was a child, I could always feel the sense of something or someone around me when no one else could. Fast forward to when I was about 9. It was the first year in the house. I could feel the presence of something in there, but I never really thought anything of it, considering it wasn't too negative. There were 3 rooms that I didn't really like being in because the energy felt somewhat dark. The basement, the bathroom, and the attic. I didn't mind being in the basement when I had friends over, but when I was alone, I couldn't be in there for more than 5 minutes without getting the feeling like I was being watched. In the bathroom was a cabinet that was very deep. You could literally fit 2 grown men in there. I never understood why it was so big. But it didn't feel right, and I would often feel drawn just to go look inside and stare for a few minutes, and I would get a very uneasy feeling. The attic, on the other hand, was a different story. I never opened it. I kept the door shut at all times. Something was up there, and it didn't want company. One night, I was laying in bed. It was around 2:45 a.m. when I heard footsteps in the hallway. I assumed it was just one of my brothers coming home from a night out with friends. My bedroom door was open, so I looked to see if anyone was walking around. I stared for what seemed like 10 minutes, and no one went by. I got scared, so I decided to wait it out. As my eyes adjusted to the dark, I thought I saw a human shape in the corner of my bedroom. I thought it was just my eyes playing tricks on me, so I just tried to turn over and go to sleep. But I felt like I was being watched. Now, in a 9-year-old's mind, it's the boogeyman. So I quickly hopped out of bed and tried to run into my mom's room. Her room was only 2 doors down from mine. In order to walk out of my room, you have to pass a wall that was somewhat slanted. In order to do this, you have to walk sideways. As I did this, I felt 2 hands pressed down on my shoulders. I froze in fear. I couldn't move. I couldn't scream. I was a prisoner in my own body. Then all of a sudden, the hairs on the back of my neck stood up. In my ear, clear as day, I heard heavy breathing. It didn't sound human. My eyes widened, and then I felt the pressure lift off of me. I could move again. I ran so fast down the hall into my mother's bedroom. That whole night, I kept hearing someone walk back and forth in the hallway, but I refused to look through the doorway. When I tell you I didn't sleep that night, I mean I didn't sleep that week. The next morning, I walked into the hallway and just so happened to look up. The door to the attic was open. I asked my mom why she was up in the attic, and she said that there was no reason to go up there. My stomach felt like it was in my throat. I knew whatever was in the attic was in my bedroom the night before, just watching me. I'm thankful I got up out of bed when I did, because if I didn't, I don't know what would have happened. I'm 22 now, and I can still remember that night as if it were yesterday, and I still can't sleep with the lights off. So, to whoever or whatever grabbed my shoulders that night, let's never, and I mean never, meet again.
I'll see you guys in the dark.